Chapter 1. Whispers in the Trees. The boy moved through the forest like a shadow, his bare feet silent against the mossy earth. He felt every pebble, every root, but his skin did not flinch. The canopy above filtered the golden morning light into spears of shimmer, slicing through low-hanging mist. Birds chirped above, but Kai listened past them to something deeper. The Everwood whispered. It always had. It was older than memory, older than language. The forest spoke not with words, but creaks of branches, silences between bird calls, the way the wind slowed near certain stones. Kai had learned its tongue by instinct, not instruction. A sudden hush in the canopy was a warning. A sharp breath of cold wind could mean death. He had been named Kai by the woman who raised him. She was long gone now, swallowed by the trees like so many other things. But the name remained, along with her old blade and the habits of survival. Kai was alone, but never lonely. The forest gave. He snared rabbits, foraged roots and berries, drank from crystal streams. He mimicked owl calls and fox barks, and in time the creatures of the Everwood no longer fled from him. Some even watched him, curious, as if they knew something he didn't. Still, there were places even Kai avoided. Places where the mist clung to the skin like breath, where stones bore markings he could not look at for long. In those places, the whispers twisted, speaking in a language that made his ears ring and his teeth ache. One evening, as twilight spilled like ink across the moss, something shifted. The air grew colder. The whispers grew louder, not in volume, but urgency. Something was waking. Kai knelt by a stream to drink. His reflection barely rippled, though the water ran fast. Then, the sound changed. No birds, no bugs, no babble of the stream. The forest was holding its breath. He rose slowly, every instinct bristling. His hand went to the bone knife at his belt. Then came the scent. Faint at first, metallic, old, not the blood of prey, not the familiar copper tang of a kill, but something ancient, sacred, and wrong. And then, movement. Across the stream, half veiled by twisted roots, stood a deer. No, not a deer. Its eyes glowed faintly in the dusk. Not with light, but with memory, with knowing. It did not move, but Kai felt its gaze pierce through skin and thought, like it was reading the story inside his bones. A low hum filled the clearing, not sound, but pressure. A vibration in the air, in his chest, in the earth itself. The creature did not speak. But the forest did, through it. Then the thing turned and vanished. No rustle of underbrush, no breaking of branches. One moment it was there. The next, gone. Kai remained frozen, his breath visible in the air. The whispers around him had changed. They no longer warned. They called. High above, nestled in the crook of a gnarled tree, a figure watched. Her red hair was tied tight. A longbow rested across her back, but her hand stayed still. She had seen many strange things in the Everwood, but nothing like this boy. Lyra narrowed her eyes and kept watching. Chapter 2. The Blood Scent. The forest was shifting. Kai could feel it in the roots underfoot, in the air that tasted of rust. Autumn should have smelled of loam and smoke, but instead the wind carried the coppery tang of blood. Faint at first, like memory, but growing stronger. Not the scent of a kill, not even decay. Something older, something remembering. At night, the whispers grew more urgent. Branches tapped windows that didn't exist. Trees swayed when the wind was still. The forest seemed to breathe with a presence just beyond sight. Then came the dreams, not his own, or not only his. He stood in a field of swords under a violet sky. Towers burned in the distance. A crown of vines bled in his hands. Each morning he awoke breathless, sweat-drenched, the taste of iron on his tongue. And always, the whisper, "You are not what you think." Kai crouched by the stream one dusk, skin prickling with unease. He hadn't caught anything in days. The animals had vanished. Even the wind was still. Then the water stopped. Not froze. Just ceased. No sound, no movement. A ribbon of stillness stretched across the earth. He stood slowly. Every instinct screamed, "Leave." But something else, older than instinct, held him there. Then he saw it. Across the stream, a deer stood watching him. But its eyes, its eyes were wrong. Not just human, remembering. They glowed faintly in the dim, not with light, but with meaning. A low hum filled the clearing. Not sound, not exactly, more like a presence slipping behind his thoughts. The deer didn't move, but Kai felt it touch him, not physically, spiritually, like it was turning the pages of a book only he could read. Then it vanished. No rustle, no sound, just gone. And the whispers changed. They no longer warned. They called. High above, nestled in the crook of an ancient elm, Lyra watched. Her red hair was tied back, her breath shallow, her bow unreadied. She made no move to follow. Not yet, but her voice was steady in the crystal attached to her collar. He felt it, she whispered. Chapter 3. The Guardian revealed. The night had no stars, no moon, only a void so complete that even the trees seemed to vanish into it. Kai sat beside the last embers of his fire, fingers tight around his bone knife. The darkness beyond his shelter didn't just press, it listened. No owls, no insects, not even the wind. The forest held its breath. And then, the whispers. Not like before. These came in waves, ancient, rising, desperate. A chorus layered over itself in a language he had never learned, but somehow understood. He wakes. He remembers. It begins. Then, a shape in the dark, a silence too deep to be natural. The barrier at the entrance, woven branches and bones, shattered. Kai rose, heart thundering, knife raised, and it stepped in. At first, it was only shadow. Then, form, massive, upright, covered in fur so black it swallowed what little light remained. But its eyes, two embers in a void, stopped him. Not eyes of a beast, not hunger, not threat, recognition. The air thickened. The whispers fell silent. Kai didn't breathe. Then, a voice, not spoken aloud but felt, inside his bones, inside his blood. Wait. The time for blood has not yet come. He did. He couldn't have moved if he wanted to. The creature stepped closer, graceful, deliberate, reverent. Now, up close, Kai saw it wasn't only black. Its fur shimmered with hidden colors, midnight blue, deep violet, green so dark it could be forest or decay. Each shift in its movement revealed patterns that felt alive, like constellations in motion. Kai's hand trembled on the knife. "Blood of my blood," the voice whispered. "Last son of the ancient line, the time has come." The world spun. Vision surged like wildfire behind his eyes. A cradle in a marble hall. A woman with storm-gray eyes singing to him. A throne of roots and stone. A battlefield of fire and wings. Then darkness. Screams. Blood on polished floors. A child bundled in moss. The hush of the Everwood. A woman's whispered prayer. Hide him, keep him, let him grow strong. Kai staggered. The creature did not move. "You were not abandoned," the voice said. "You were protected. I am Valthyr, bound to your bloodline, your guardian, since the day your mother vanished into the trees." Kai's voice cracked. "Why now? Why speak only now?" "Because now you are awake." Just then, something shifted in the trees. A soft rustle, barely audible. Kai turned. A woman emerged from the shadows, bow lowered, flame-red hair tangled in the wind. Lyra. Her gaze never left Valthyr. "We know who you are, forest man," she said. "And we've been waiting too." Chapter 4. The Awakening. The light returned slowly, like warmth creeping into numb limbs. The sunstone around Kai's neck pulsed with a steady rhythm, his rhythm. His heartbeat had changed. Stronger, older, as if it belonged to someone who had once ruled. He opened his eyes. The shelter was silent, the embers of his fire still glowing. Lyra stood at the doorway, arms crossed. Valthyr waited just beyond the threshold, his form flickering in and out of shadow. Kai could hear everything. The scurry of mice beneath the snow, the drip of water on stone, a fox's breath a mile away, and beneath all of it, whispers. Not the old whispers of warning and mystery, but voices now clear and deliberate. His ancestors. "What must I do?" Kai asked. His voice sounded deeper, rooted. As if he spoke with more than one tongue, Valthyr raised his massive head. You must reclaim what was stolen, the throne of Eldoria. The land cries for its king. Lyra stepped forward, her tone pragmatic but edged with urgency. Skazos's grip is tightening. His blight spreads through the valleys. Villages are dying. People are afraid to even speak the old names. Kai's breath caught. Eldoria. I remember the name. Barely. Like a dream half lost. Not a dream, Valthyr said. A memory. Yours. Kai turned toward the forest, his old world. He could feel it retreating, inch by inch, like mist at sunrise. I never asked for any of this, he whispered. No king ever does, Valthyr replied gently. But they rise all the same. Lyra softened her stance. You're not alone, Kai. We've watched you. We believe in you. And we need you. She handed him a small pouch. Inside, dried leaves and a rough cloth wrap. For the journey, he nodded, still dazed. Then the journey begins now. Outside, the Everwood stirred. The trees swayed though there was no wind. Birds that hadn't sung in months trilled a strange new melody. The moss underfoot felt warmer. Even the forest knew the king had awoken. Chapter 5. The Rebel's Plea. Eldoria? Kai repeated. The name stirred something distant, a dream of sunlight, stone towers, and voices calling his name. I remember stories. Whispers of a golden age. Lyra stepped forward. Her red hair flickered in the firelight like a banner in motion. It was real, she said. But Skazos twisted it. He rules now from the Obsidian Citadel, choking the land with shadow. Our people suffer, starving, hunted, silenced. We fought in the dark, but we need a symbol, a reason to rise. Valthyr's ember eyes glowed. The blood of kings flows in you, Kai. Skazos fears it. The people will rally to your name, but only if you give them cause. Kai hesitated. How? I know nothing of war or ruling. I lived among trees, not courts. You will learn, Valthyr said, and you will not be alone. He turned his gaze to Lyra. Tell him of your rebellion, its strength, its weaknesses. Lyra's confidence flickered, if only briefly. We are few, she admitted. Our village lies hidden deep in the Whisperwind peaks, safe for now. We have warriors, scouts, and a handful who still touch the old magic. But we're running out of time. Food is scarce, morale is worse. We've lost so much. Kai folded his arms, grounding himself. What of allies, other factions? Lyra nodded slowly. There are rumors, scattered bands of resistance, some led by noble houses in exile, others by zealots chasing prophecy, but no one trusts each other. Skazos made sure of that. Valthyr rumbled, the sound like distant thunder through mountains. Then unity must come from you. You must forge a banner that all can gather beneath. A name that turns fear to flame. Lyra's eyes sharpened. There is one thing that could help. A legend, maybe more. Kai tilted his head. Go on. The Sword of Kings, she said, forged in the old capital before it fell. They say it waits beneath the ruins. Only the true heir can wield it, and its power. She glanced at the sunstone. It's said to answer ancient magic. Kai looked between them, guardian spirit, rebel warrior, and a path paved in ash and blood. I was content to survive, he murmured. But the forest gave me more than life. It gave me strength. And now I see why. He closed his eyes, listening. The whispers in the trees no longer warned. They no longer whispered. They sang. I will do it, Kai said, voice like stone meeting steel. I will claim my throne and free Eldoria. Lyra smiled, not soft, but fierce. Then we begin. Chapter 6. The journey begins. The forest no longer whispered warnings. It sang a slow, solemn farewell. Kai moved with purpose now, though every step away from the Everwood felt like peeling away layers of himself. Behind him, the ancient trees stood tall, their branches brushing sky like old hands. Ahead, stone and snow waited. Lyra was already preparing, quick, efficient, focused. She barked orders to the small band of rebels who had come to escort them, 5 warriors lean and weathered, clad in mismatched armor. She moved among them like flame through dry grass. Kai watched her, quiet. She noticed. Something on your mind, forest man. He hesitated. You wear command like second skin. Lyra snorted. Learned early. You hesitate, people die. Doesn't mean I'm always right, just fast. He nodded. I'm not fast. I'm careful. That's why you're still alive, she said. We'll balance each other. Before they departed, the trees stirred one last time. From the mist emerged an old woman, her back curved like a bow. She leaned on a staff of twisted pine, gnarled as her hands. Her eyes were veiled with cataracts, but still they saw too much. So, she rasped, the sleeping king awakens. Kai tensed. You know who I am? I knew before your first breath, she said, smiling without softness. I am Alara, seer of the Everwood. I have watched you longer than the sun has watched the trees. She reached into her cloak and offered him a small wooden box, carved with symbols that shimmered as if breathing. This was your mother's, she said. Inside is a fragment of the sunstone, not just light. It is memory. It remembers what came before and what could be again. Kai opened the box. Warmth spilled over his hands like summer wind. The stone inside glowed faintly gold, carved with a spiral that pulsed in time with his heart. Use it wisely, Alara said. It is a shield, a key, and a test. He bowed, a motion that surprised even him. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, boy, she said, turning away. Walk well between the worlds. The dark is watching. Then she was gone, mist curling where she'd stood. They departed that same day. The Everwood gave way slowly, moss giving way to stone, green softening to frost. The mountains loomed ahead, sharp and wide, like the jaws of a beast waiting to bite. At night, Lyra told stories around the fire, of villages razed, of children stolen in the night, of the black banners of Skazos' warbands. She spoke without fear, but not without sorrow. Kai listened, and each word carved him deeper. I didn't know, he said once, when her tale fell quiet. You weren't meant to, she replied. That was the only way you'd survive. Days passed. Kai's senses sharpened further. He could feel paths that hadn't yet been trodden, sense when a storm would break hours before the clouds darkened. The forest still lived in him, but now it answered to something deeper. The whispers of his ancestors walked with him. By the time they reached the edge of the mountain pass, he was no longer only the man the forest raised. He was the king the land remembered. Chapter 7. The Whisperwind Peaks. The climb into the Whisperwind Peaks tested every step. Twisted creatures hunted by night, and the wind howled like mourning spirits. Once, Lyra nearly slipped on a shale slope, but Bram caught her, breathless and pale. This mountain wants our bones, he muttered. Each day cost them. One warrior was taken by a tree that bled black sap. Another vanished mid-watch. No sound, no sign. They left cairns when they could. Sometimes just a prayer and a name. Kai felt the weight of their stares. He knew what they whispered behind him. A wild man, some said. A ghost king, others guessed. But the forest had taught him to hear what wasn't spoken. That night, camped beneath a jut of stone shaped like a wolf's head, Bram approached him. The boy scratched at the leather straps of his armor, hesitant. You really didn't grow up around people, huh? Kai glanced up. Just the forest. Bram chuckled nervously. Right. So, was it true? Did you eat raw squirrels and howl at the moon? Kai's lips twitched. No. I cooked the squirrels. That got a laugh, short, surprised. I'm sorry, Bram said quickly. It's just, we heard stories. A beast with a crown. I guess I thought you'd be more, I don't know, savage. Kai poked the fire with a stick, sparks jumping like startled fireflies. The forest raised me. It taught me to listen, to endure, to fight when I must. But it didn't teach cruelty. That's a man's lesson. Bram looked away, jaw clenched. My brother was tortured by one of Skazos' tax lords for hiding bread. Cruelty's all I know. Kai studied him. Then we'll teach each other something better. Silence fell, but it was not awkward. Just quiet. Then Bram said softly, You're not what I expected. You're more. By dusk on the fourth day, the peaks cut the sky like jagged knives. The forest gave way to wind-scoured rock, and the air thinned until every breath burned. They came upon a narrow ridge that led to a stone gate carved directly into the mountain's side. A single flame flickered in a brazier above it. Signal or sentinel, Kai wasn't sure. From the shadow of the cliffs, warriors emerged. Their armor was mismatched, fur, metal, old bone. but they moved in tight formation, weapons drawn. Kai stepped forward instinctively, posture tall. Lyra walked beside him, hand near her dagger. A woman broke ranks and strode toward them, silver hair braided into a thick rope, cloak snapping like a banner in the alpine wind. "I am Anya," she said, "leader of this rebellion." "You bring the forest man?" Kai met her eyes. "I am Kai." Anya looked him over. Her expression never changed. "You're not what I expected." "I get that a lot," Kai said. Lyra stepped in. "He's the heir. I've seen what he can do. So has Valthyr." Anya's eyes flicked between them. "Can you lead men? Rally cities?" "No," Kai said. "But I can kill monsters and survive where others fall. And I'm learning fast." That earned the faintest of nods. "Come in then. Let the mountain judge you." The gates creaked open, revealing a hidden village nestled in stone and mists. Smoke curled from narrow chimneys. Children peeked from behind barrels. A hammer rang in the forge. It smelled of sweat, iron, and hope. Chapter 8. Shadows and Secrets. Kai's arrival stirred whispers, some in reverence, others in doubt. A king born of trees and legend, now walking among them. That night, Anya called a war council in the Hall of Stone, a cavern veined with quartz, lit by crystal fire and torchlight. Maps lay across a stone table, marked with charcoal and blood, rebel camps, corrupted lands, warlord outposts. Anya pointed to one red circle, Eldermore, trade hub turned fortress. "If we take it, the realm will stir." "We barely held the peaks," growled a scarred man. "And we're sending our strength into open war?" Lyra cut in. "Fear has kept the people frozen. They need fire, a symbol." All eyes turned to Kai. He stepped forward, gaze on the map. "We don't need to strike everywhere, just once, just strong enough to remind them we're still alive." He tapped Eldermore. A long silence. "Spoken like a forest wolf," the scarred man said. Quick bite. "Cities aren't rabid warrens." Kai looked him in the eye. "And fear isn't a battle plan." Something shifted in the room. Postures straightened, whispers stilled. Anya studied Kai. "We strike Eldermore," she said, "but with precision, diversions, timed incursions. This won't be a brawl, it'll be a spark." Later, Lyra found Kai standing on a cliff's edge, staring into the valley below. "You surprised them," she said. "I surprised myself," he admitted. "You don't have to know everything," Lyra replied. "You just have to care enough to fight. The rest comes." He looked at her, really looked, and for a moment, the wind carried nothing but the weight of understanding. Neither of them said a word. Chapter 9. Blood of the Mountain. Kai trained daily in the upper courtyard, his wild instincts shaped into focus. The sunstone pulsed in his palm like a second heart. He felt everything, the pull of the mountain's veins, the ghosts that haunted the forge, the path of ravens in flight. Even the rebels changed around him. The stares of doubt slowly shifted into nods of respect. One night, Alara found him alone. "You carry your crown like a wound," she said. Kai didn't look up. "It doesn't feel earned." "No crown is. They're forged in loss, tempered by blood." He said nothing. She touched his arm. The stone hums louder now. "That means the storm draws near." Before he could ask, Bram's voice echoed through the corridor. "Movement in the tunnels." They descended with torches and weapons. The air was wrong, wet and stale. The light dimmed the deeper they went, as if swallowed. The creature stood alone, cloaked, breathing shallow. Its eyes glowed red. "You're the king the ghosts serve," it rasped. "You should have stayed in the trees." Then it attacked. Kai moved like a gale through leaves. Sunstone flared, spear met claw. The thing was fast, but not fast enough. A flash of golden light, a cry that echoed off stone. And then, stillness. The creature choked out a final whisper. "He sees you now, and he waits." Later in the Hall of Stone, Alara knelt beside the body. His soul is gone, willingly twisted, not possessed, devoted. Anya's face darkened. "Cultists." Kai stared at the blood on his hands. "He knew me." Lyra stood beside him. "Then it's time we make sure everyone knows you." Anya nodded. Eldermore falls before his reach spreads. No more waiting. Kai gripped the hilt of his spear. He wouldn't let the darkness win. Chapter 10. Fire in the Sky. The attack on Eldermore began beneath a blood-red dawn. The rebels moved like shadows through the trees and stone, hearts pounding, blades silent. Kai stood at the front, Lyra at his side, her red hair braided and tied back like a war banner. The sky was a canvas of smoke and flame. The city loomed ahead, walls lined with black-armored guards, its towers crooked from rot, its gates swollen with years of silence and fear. "We strike with light," Kai whispered, "before they remember how to be afraid." Lyra gave a nod. Her eyes were sharp, but behind them burned belief. Then the signal came, 3 flashes of mirror light from the ridge above. The rebels surged forward. Explosions rocked the city's outer wall, crafted by rebel alchemists using powder stolen from Skazos's caravans. Gates buckled, arrows rained from cliffside scouts. Rebel warriors roared through the smoke. For Eldoria, for the king, Kai moved like a force of nature. The sunstone on his chest glowed fiercely, casting golden arcs with each swing of his spear. His movements were fluid, brutal, guided not by training but memory older than his body. Every blow he struck felt guided by the earth itself. Beside him, Lyra danced between enemies, her twin daggers flashing, precise and ruthless. She fought not for glory, but for the fallen. The fire in her eyes lit the path for others to follow. But the battle turned. Inside the walls, the bloodspawn emerged, twice the height of a man. Blackened armor fused bone. Its skin rippled with corruption. Its eyes, if they were eyes, burned with crimson hunger. It let out a roar that shattered windows. Rebel fighters broke and scattered. Only Kai remained in its path. He stepped forward. The bloodspawn charged, a blade the size of a cartwheel raised. It struck, too fast, too strong. The blow should have broken Kai's back, but the sunstone flared. Golden light exploded outward, forming a shield that threw the creature off balance. Kai didn't hesitate. He drove forward, spear first, striking with every ounce of weight and will. The stone pulsed with each movement, his ancestors' strength in every breath. The spear found the beast's chest. The bloodspawn shrieked, high, inhuman, and burst into black fire. Silence fell. Smoke drifted through the broken gate. Kai stood alone in the courtyard, surrounded by ash. And then, a cheer. First one voice, then 10, then 100. "The king! The heir lives. He fights for us." From windows, rooftops, shattered doorways, the people of Eldermore watched. Not rebels, not soldiers, citizens, survivors, witnesses. Lyra stepped beside him, bloodied but unbroken. "They saw you," she said quietly. "You gave them hope?" Kai looked around, not at the ruin, but at the faces. Old, young, worn, but not hopeless. "This is only the beginning," he said. And above them, the dawn finally broke through the smoke. Fire in the sky. Chapter 11. The Dark Path. The moment Kai, Lyra, Torvin, and Alara stepped onto the dark path, the world shifted. The air grew thick, so dense it clung to their skin like oil. The forest sounds behind them fell away, smothered into silence. Even the wind refused to follow. The ground beneath their feet was not soil, not stone, but something in between, cold and soft, like walking on the remains of forgotten things. The trees twisted overhead like skeletal arms, their bark flaking like ash, their branches reaching as if to grasp. Fog coiled around their legs, low and dense. Every step felt like a descent, as if the path weren't a road through a forest, but a vein burrowing deeper into the world's wounded heart. Kai's hand found the haft of his spear. "Stay close," he murmured. "There's something here, watching." They pressed forward, breath visible despite no wind. Eyes stung. Every sound was distant, muffled, except for the occasional rustle. Something moving just beyond sight. Shapes shifted in the fog. Not animals, not people, shadow demons. When they finally emerged, half-formed things, with limbs too long and mouths full of jagged, glistening teeth, Alara's whisper barely carried. "They feed on fear." on regret. They will try to unmake you." Then the demons attacked. It began as a ripple through the mist, then chaos. Claws slashed through fog, teeth snapped at throats. Lyra loosed arrows with cold precision, each one a quiet death. Torvin's axe rose and fell, cleaving nightmare into smoke. Ilara's hands burned with fire and light, her spells snapping like thunder through the trees. Kai fought at the center, his spear a living thing in his hands, thrust, pivot, block, sweep. But the shadow demons kept coming, and worse, they whispered, not in words, in memories, a breath at Kai's ear that wasn't there, a vision of a clearing in the Everwood, empty, a child alone, calling out, unheard, "You are not enough," they breathed. "You were never meant to lead." He stumbled. A claw grazed his side. Blood bloomed. The mist thickened around him, pressing in. His fingers trembled. The spear felt heavier now, too heavy. He saw them again, his parents, faceless and fading, the people of Eldoria, broken and starving, the forest dying under ash. Kai dropped to a knee, gasping. The whispers swarmed. His fear fed them. The world dimmed. And then, a voice, not Ilara's, not Lyra's, older, warmer. "Stand, child of the line." He knew it, the voice of his blood, of his father, of the kings who had walked before him. "We did not die for you to kneel." The whispers faltered. Kai rose. His eyes burned, not with fear but with fire. "I am Kai," he roared, the spear raised high, "son of the ancient kings. And I will not be broken." The sunstone ignited, brilliant and golden, its light punching through the darkness like a rising sun. The shadow demons shrieked, their forms unraveling, smoke ripped from bone. One by one, they dissolved into mist. The path cleared. The silence returned, not empty now, but waiting. Ahead, the fog thinned. The land rose. The ruins of the old capital awaited. Chapter 12, The Ruins of the Old Capital. After the darkness of the shadow path, the silence of the old capital was somehow worse. Where once spires had kissed the clouds and streets pulsed with song, now only ruin remained. Vines strangled statues. Towers slumped like broken limbs. Roads were cracked ribs in the earth. The heart of Eldoria had stopped beating. They passed through a great stone archway, half-collapsed, carved with faded runes. Ilara ran her fingers along one glyph, tracing it as if touching a memory. "This city once glowed like starlight," she whispered. "Now it mourns." The buildings loomed, hollow-eyed, watching. Fog clung low and pale. Every echo stretched too far. "This is it," Lyra said, her voice low. "The kingdom's soul, reduced to bones." Kai stepped forward, gaze heavy. "Then we breathe life into it again." They moved through streets lined with rot and ruin. Skeletons in rusted armor lay where they had fallen, swords still gripped. Books, half-burned and weather-worn, lay open in courtyards. A child's toy sat undisturbed on a step, green moss creeping over its wooden frame. Ilara paused before a shattered fountain, kneeling beside a pile of bones. Some stayed. They believed someone would return. The stillness was pierced only by distant caws of carrion birds and the soft rustle of unseen things in the fog. The deeper they ventured, the stranger the city became. Rooms warped by Skazos' magic, twisted in geometry that defied reason. Doorways that led nowhere, stairs that curved upward into shadow, mirrors that reflected a younger version of the viewer's face. Torvin grunted, smashing one such mirror with the butt of his axe. "Hate this place." They pressed on. Hidden traps lay in wait, some mechanical, some magical. Ilara diffused glyphs that could turn blood to fire. Lyra spotted sigils drawn with bone dust. And always, they were watched. Eyes glinted from behind broken windows. Spies of Skazos, or worse. Days passed. The city unfolded like a riddle, slow and cruel. It was Ilara's visions, and the sunstone's soft glow, that guided them to the old palace. A sprawling ruin of marble and thorn, choked with ivy, its windows shattered, its banners long faded. In its heart, a door, tall, sealed with runes older than language. Stone golems stood sentinel on either side, unmoving. "The final guardians," Ilara said. "They test the blood, the heart, the will. The golems stirred. Massive stone limbs cracked and shifted. Blue light blazed in their hollow eyes. They attacked. Steel and stone clashed. Torvin's axe sparked uselessly against the golem's hide. Lyra fired arrow after arrow, each one shattering harmlessly on impact. Alara summoned flame, but it dissipated before it reached them. Nothing breaks them, she cried. Kai stood still. The sunstone pulsed at his chest. He stepped forward, raising the fragment high. The runes on the door ignited, glowing gold. Light arced outward, striking the golems. They froze. Cracks bloomed across their bodies, like lightning across ice. Then, collapse. The golems shattered into dust. The door swung open. Beyond, darkness waited. And within it, the Sword of Kings. Chapter 13. The Sword of Kings. The chamber beyond the stone door was vast and still, cut from ancient rock, untouched by time or ruin. The only light came from the Sword of Kings. It rested on a pedestal of marble veined with gold, surrounded by a pool of still water. No dust, no decay, as if the room had waited, breathless, for this moment. The sword shimmered, not just with reflected light, but with something deeper. Its blade was pale as starlight, etched with runes that shifted when Kai blinked. Its hilt, wrapped in silver and crystal, pulsed with the heartbeat of the land. Kai stepped forward, the others behind him silent. Lyra whispered, "This is not a weapon, it is a covenant." He reached for the hilt, and the world shattered. Kai stood alone, surrounded by swirling light and shadow. The chamber was gone. Before him, a mirror hung in the void, but the reflection was not his own. Skazos. His face was carved from shadow, twisted with hate and triumph. "You think you're ready?" The usurper hissed. "You, raised by trees and ghosts. You have no right to this blade." Kai felt the air thicken, like drowning in doubt. "You were abandoned," Skazos said, circling him. "You were hidden because you were weak. They buried you like a secret." Visions slammed into him. His lonely nights in the Everwood, his failures, the faces of those he couldn't save. The whisper returned, "You will never be enough." His knees buckled. The light flickered. The sword felt 1,000,000 miles away. And then, another voice. Not one, but many. The voices of his ancestors. His mother, singing beneath moonlight. His father, standing proud in golden armor. His people, faces unknown but hearts familiar. "You are not the shadow," they said. "You are the flame." Kai rose. "You cannot break me," he said, turning to face the illusion. "Because I was never yours to destroy." Skazos bared his teeth. "Then die with your pride." He hurled a wave of dark fire. Kai stepped into it. The flames passed through him, not untouched, but unchained. He reached forward, hands steady, and grasped the sword. A surge of energy ripped through him, pure, radiant, alive. The chamber returned. The Sword of Kings blazed in his grasp. The runes glowed gold. The water boiled away in a ring of light. Kai's cloak lifted with the force of it. His hair swept back. He felt them, the kings before him. Not voices now, not whispers. Presence. They stood with him, through him. His strength was no longer just his own. Kai turned to the others, the sword alight in his hand. "Skazos will fall," he said, voice low and steady. "And Eldoria will rise." They bowed their heads, not in fear, in faith. Outside, the wind stirred. The sky began to clear. The king had claimed his crown. Chapter 14. The Siege of the Obsidian Citadel. When Kai returned to the Whisperwind Peaks, he was no longer just the forest-born heir. He was the king reclaimed. The Sword of Kings burned at his hip like a shard of sunrise, and the sunstone pulsed with ancestral rhythm. Rebels knelt. Lyra met his gaze and didn't bow, but the respect in her eyes said more than words ever could. The fires of rebellion roared to life. Anya spread the map across the war table, creased and bloodstained. "The Citadel is strong," she said, "but not perfect." Zara found a weakness, a forgotten tunnel carved for fleeing royals, one we can turn against them. The plan was bold. Kai would lead a strike force through the hidden path to open the gates. Anya and the rebel army would launch a frontal assault, drawing Skazos' forces into the open. "If the tunnel fails," Anya said, "we die screaming at the walls." "Then it won't fail," Kai replied. His voice didn't shout. It didn't need to. Night fell, moonless and cold. Wrapped in silence, Kai led Lyra, Torvin, Ilara, and the elite strike team into the tunnel mouth, half swallowed by time, roots, and dust. It was no tunnel. It was a tomb. The walls sweated darkness. Runes flickered faintly. The deeper they moved, the more the tunnel twisted, defying geometry, whispering lies. They passed bones, then fresher remains, and then the Guardians, things that had once been men. Twisted by Skazos' magic, they were part stone, part sinew. Their mouths gaped with silence. Their hands bore blades fused to bone. "Hold," Kai said. The rebels tensed. The creatures sensed them. The silence shattered. What followed was a battle fought in whispers and blood. Lyra moved like wind through shadows, cutting throats before sound could form. Torvin met one guardian head-on, axe against arm blade, blood and sparks flying. Ilara's magic shimmered in glyphs across the walls, trapping spells mid-flight, redirecting them like mirrors. But time bled away. Above, they could hear it now. War, roars, screams, metal upon metal. Anya's army had begun the assault. The tunnel ended in a massive sealed gate, etched in binding magic so dense it burned the air. "I can't unravel it fast enough," Ilara said, sweat beading on her brow. "It's woven from death." Kai stepped forward. He drew the Sword of Kings. It hummed, eager, then let it cut through death. He raised it high and struck. The blade cleaved, not stone, but enchantment itself. The magic cracked, howled, and then shattered like glass under thunder. The gate groaned open. They emerged into the Citadel's inner courtyard, a jagged plain of obsidian, black banners whipping in storm wind. Skazos' army turned to meet them. The rebels poured through the gates. The siege had begun. The battle was fire and ruin. Skazos' creatures clawed from shadows, towering abominations shrieking through the ranks. But Kai led the charge, his sword a beacon, his will a banner. Everywhere he struck, the shadows receded. Lyra moved beside him, arrows loosed faster than thought. Torvin was a wall of fury and steel. Ilara conjured cyclones of light and frost, breaking siege towers mid-rise. Still, the tide raged. Above, lightning split the clouds, and in its flicker, the Citadel's tower rose like a fang against the heavens. "There," Kai said. "He's waiting." He broke from the battle, carving a path through the chaos. His companions followed. At the tower's peak, behind a throne of stone and rot, "Skazos, you wear your father's face," the sorcerer sneered. "But you will not wear his crown." "I wear what you could never hold," Kai said. "Honor, mercy, light. You think light wins?" Skazos' voice twisted. "Then die in the dark." And the final battle began. Chapter 15. The Final Stand. The tower shook with ancient rage. Stone cracked underfoot. The air buzzed with raw magic, thick and foul. At the summit, beneath a shattered dome open to the storm, Skazos stood cloaked in black fire, arms raised in invocation. "You are too late," he said, voice like rust and thunder. "The realm is already mine." "No," Kai said. "You held it, you bled it, but it never belonged to you." Their eyes locked, one filled with centuries of corruption, the other lit by ancestral flame. And then they clashed. Skazos conjured blades of darkness, spears of bone and hate. They came like storms, faster than thought, fueled by despair. Kai moved through them, barely alive, his armor scored, his body bleeding. The Sword of Kings met spell after spell, runes blazing with defiance. But the power of the sword was not endless. Skazos laughed, a sound that made the tower tremble. "You wield light like a toy," he spat. "I was forged in darkness." He raised his arms, drawing power from the storm. A vortex of shadow spun around him, growing, reaching. Kai dropped to a knee. The world dimmed. He heard them again. The whispers, "You are not enough. You were never meant to lead. Let it end." But this time, he did not listen. He reached for the sunstone, still glowing faintly at his chest. And he remembered his mother's arms, the first time he touched the Everwood and it breathed back. The rebels who stood when no one else would. The light that had always waited, just beneath the pain. "I am Kai," he said quietly, "born of earth and shadow, raised in root and song. Heir to the line of light." The sword of kings flared gold, and the sunstone answered. The wind howled. The tower pulsed, magic tore free from the stone like wildfire. Kai stood, cloak torn, hair whipping, his eyes no longer just his own, lit with every soul that had believed in him. He charged. The final blow was not strength. It was truth. Skazos screamed as Kai plunged the blade through his chest. The sword shone like the sun breaking through centuries of night. The dark sorcerer's body convulsed, unraveling into shadow and ash. "No," he shrieked. "I was forever. You were forgotten," Kai said. "Long before I was born." And with that, Skazos was no more. The storm broke. Outside, the battle stilled. Dark creatures collapsed. The skies cleared. And in the silence that followed, a new dawn painted the peaks gold. Kai emerged from the Citadel, the sword of kings still warm in his grasp. The rebels, bloodied but victorious, raised their voices in a thunderous cry. "The king, Eldoria, is free." Anya met him at the broken gate, her eyes wet. Lyra stood at his side, quiet, steady. Torvin grinned through broken teeth. Alara bowed, not with ceremony but with reverence. Kai looked out at the people, his people, and he spoke not as a warrior but as a king. This land was broken, but so were we, and still we rose. He lifted the sword. "Eldoria is not stone. It is not banners or bloodlines. It is us, and we will build it anew." The cheer that followed shook the mountains. Under Kai's rule, the realm healed. Villages rebuilt. The magic of the land, long poisoned, began to sing again. He planted trees where battles were fought. He spoke with spirits as he did with men. He never forgot the Everwood. And when his time came to pass, he passed the sword of kings to his heir beneath a sky filled with stars. The whispers of the past faded, not in silence, but in peace. The story of Kai, the forest boy who became a king, lived on, not just in books, not just in legend, but in the roots of every tree, the breath of every dawn, and the heart of a land reborn.